All right. A very warm good morning and good afternoon, depending upon the time zone you are in. So if you are in California, a very warm. But if you are in New York, Eastern time, very warm good afternoon. I'm really happy to have very esteemed leaders today with us on the panel in the Fashion eSummit 2020. I really would like to say thank you to all of you today for taking out time this morning from your very busy schedule, and let's make it the best uh, possible opportunity for all of us. I think we also have Cesar with us. Hey, Cesar, good afternoon, depending upon the time zone you are in. Can you hear us? Hi. Okay, perfect.
Perfectly. How are you?
Well, welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So I would like to start panel discussion with a formal introduction of our panelists today. I would like to begin with Blake. Uh, Blake Lopez is the Vice President of Marketing at Tasc Performance. Blake has 9+ years of leadership experience in brand and digital. Uh, Blake has developed winning digital marketing for Fortune 500 companies and have experienced large projects, managing global vendors, managing the creative process, unique content, account management, and execution of digital and integrated marketing campaign across the digital and traditional touchpoints. Uh, Blake has worked with brands which are featured in the Wall Street Journal. He is in traditional media and marketing, and he has a lot to share with us today. Blake, welcome to the
How's it going? Thanks for the intro.
Wonderful.
Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Excited to be here.
Welcome, Blake. Next, we have on the panel is Andrew Pollard. Andrew is the founder of LTH JKT. Andrew believes in creating innovative businesses by combining a disciplined business rationale with an intuitive sense of culture. Andrew has launched this new leather jacket company from concept to commercially viable business, and he has been in running day-to-day operations, and he built a strong network of partners which is helping his business, and currently he's making sure that his business has a strong purpose and a vision, and he believes a lot in building a great culture that helps a business scale up. Through to the panel discussion.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Next we have on our panel is Samantha. Samantha is the designer of PUNDIT. She oversees designing, sourcing, and branding. Samantha started with off-silk screening t-shirts and embroidering hats to producing men's and women's activewear. Then Samantha's goal distribution of, and she is managing day-to-day operations with her team to scale up her business. She believes every day is challenging, but she works really, really hard and enjoy every minute of it. Welcome to the panel discussion.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Next we have on the panel is Cesar Cruz. Cesar is the co-founder of Couture. Sebastian has found this business in Miami, Florida, and themselves as a unique company which focuses on design, and they are 100% e-commerce high fashion brand and have headquarters in Italy. They are being featured in GQ, Vogue, Essence, Esquire, The Knot, and many such magazines. Fastest growing Shopify Plus e-commerce store in the high fashion menswear industry. Cesar, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Wonderful. So I think we have a great set of individuals today with us, and they all to share. And I would like to start this panel discussion with a single question to all of you, which is, what is the purpose of your brand, and how did you started your business? I would like to begin with probably Andrew.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks again, Kuldeep. So for us, the purpose, obviously starting a business is to run a successful business, but there's an underlying deeper purpose for us, and for me personally, and that is to really create a self-confident culture, meaning where we can have people that have the ability to solve complex problems in an integrated way, where they can grow themselves and ultimately grow the business. So as a leather jacket company, our mission statement is to build a more confident world, or inspire a more confident world. But really that is to inspire and build our own self-confidence. So that's the general mission for our company.
Wonderful. That's great. Empowering and offering that confidence. Excellent, excellent points there. How about you? What is the purpose at Tasc Performance? And you have been in the field of marketing, headed so many projects. How do you see your role in Tasc Performance, and what is the purpose and what is the vision of your?
Yeah, so I think our vision's an easy one. You know, as a company that's rooted in activewear, it's really sort of creating a deeper connection between sort of social responsibility and activewear, which, you know, as you know, a lot of the companies out there use sort of unnatural fibers, so to speak, like polyester, nylon, and all of these other things. And so what we're really trying to do is create a more sustainable sort of activewear brand that connects people to sort of our natural being, right? Or our natural existence. So this idea of the earth we sort of come from, and of the earth we can return. And so like 70% of our products right now are 100% biodegradable and compostable. So literally you could grow flowers out of your activewear shirt if you really, really wanted to, which is really, really unique and dynamic. And I think we have a unique space and a unique opportunity. And so really at the end of the day, like our goal is to sort of create a more fashion conscious world. And when I say fashion conscious, we don't necessarily mean style conscious, but just like we care about electric cars and organic health foods and all those other things, we should also care about what we wear. And that shouldn't be disposable.
Wow, that's excellent. So you are already there, the sustainability. So you're already thinking and incorporated that into your vision and mission, which is excellent. I'm really happy to know that. Samantha, moving on to you. What is the purpose of your brand? How did you start it?
So PUNDIT is actually, well, it means pretty much a leader. It's a political term, but I liked it because it was a leader who basically taught knowledge to big crowds. So I think for me, I like that idea because I've always been into fashion, but it's always been about following a purpose. Mm-hmm. So our mission is aspire to inspire. So we also just recently, just through the pandemic, you know, we've been more open to the fact of using more sustainable fabrics and recycling fabrics, and, you know, with our existing designs instead of ordering new stuff. So we are trying to stay more conscious on that side. And we just became a waste-free company, I guess you can say, and we don't use any plastic. So we're just trying to, my goal is just for people to be more conscious of it, especially in the fashion industry, because there's a lot of waste, you know, prior to, you know, having this brand and working in the field. There's just so many things I did pick up along the way. There's a lot of aesthetics that I'm attracted to, but I want there to be purpose and meaningful, and, you know, put that into people's everyday lives of just being conscious. Like, you can still be stylish, but still, you know, be more responsible. So.
Wow, that's a great thought process. Be stylish, but be thoughtful, and
yeah,
excellent thought there. Cesar, how about start, and what is the purpose of your brand?
So the purpose was really fueled by our passion to just build relationships with people all over the world. I'm a firm believer that relationships is everything. It's the heart of e-commerce, especially now. You have to digitize your ability to communicate and foster relationships with people all over the world without even touching them. So that, to me, I'm extremely passionate about that.
Wow.
And so we kind of like build a flow where we call it educate, inspire, and empower. So we educate people on the importance of dressing well, and image. We inspire them with our social media content, and we empower them with our product. So if we keep people within the first two phases, we're happy with that. Eventually, they may or may not become customers, but they sure know somebody that could become our customer. And that's really the heart of the business. That's the excuse to build a relationship with somebody.
Wow, excellent thought. Yeah, building an emotional connect. Yeah, I think in today's world, consumers are extremely aware about what's happening, and they kind of go for the brands, sustainability, social consciousness, and all these things kind of really matter to today's consumers. And I think glad to know that all of you and incorporated all that into your vision and mission statement. I would like to move on to the next question to Andrew, which is around, Andrew, how is your brand creating a strong culture towards serving end consumers, culture of purpose of the stakeholders?
Yeah, so, we take quite a different approach. I've been in the business, 30 years and run traditional companies. This particular venture I started in a quite a unique way. I wanted to, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about the external notion of sustainability.
Yeah.
What I focus on is the internal notion of sustainability. How do you create sustainability in people? So most cultures, most company cultures are run like an assembly line, right? So it's process and it's really good instruction. So giving instructions and taking instructions. So that can cause commoditization and efficiency in a lot of ways, but it dehumanizes. It takes away the motivation internally for people. So we as humans are problem-solving machines. We love solving problems. We actually get an immense amount of joy out of solving problems. Actually, where the problem-solving or learning component of the brain connects at the same place where food and sex connect. So we get an amazing endorphin rush when we solve problems. But typically in most companies, you don't get the chance to solve problems.
Yeah.
What you are basically instructed to do is to get things right and get things right according to your boss or your superior. More of a learning culture, the basis of learning. Learning is not something that you really can be taught, rather than something that you have to do. So if you remember, which you probably don't, when you learn to walk or talk, nobody told you how to walk or talk. You tried, you failed, you tried, you failed, you tried, you failed. So we have this process, which is a very difficult process. It requires a certain type of person who really wants to evolve themselves through learning. As the co-founder of the company, it's a very difficult place because you see failure everywhere. And, as a business, the business could go off a cliff very easily. But if you manage it well enough and give people the space to be vulnerable, a really incredible thing happens where people actually start to connect together. They realize that they are dependent on each other for their success. And they realize that the decisions that they make have consequences to everybody's job. So in summarizing, what happens for us is that we can take complex problems, simplify them, and the result is we generally have a happier, more joyful company, and we're more successful. And we just experienced that in the last 6 months. We lost 90% of our business overnight. And technically we should have gone out of business. but because of the culture, we were able to solve problems very, very quickly and come out of this at the other end in a successful way.
Wonderful. I think shared there, one of the quote by Joichi Ito. He was working at the MIT Media Labs, and he made a statement a few years back, like, education is what others do to you, learning is what you do to yourself. And that's what I think the culture, open culture, internal stakeholders to kind of up and kind of bring that creativity and innovation and help the companies grow. Excellent thought there, Andrew.
Thank you.
Blake, are kind of in a leadership position where for a brand, and how do you see marketing playing a pivotal role in retention and challenging times like this, where the demand has shrunk, or probably the things that earlier happened quite normally, like shopping used to happen like an extension of to do, but suddenly that has taken, everything has turned online. As a brand, are you navigating your marketing strategies to ensure customer retention during?
Yeah, sure. So, sorry, and it sort of cut out a bit. So I think your question was around sort of customer retention during sort of a COVID,
Hi there.
in a COVID
I'm
world,
Cortana,
right?
and I'm here to help.
So
Sign in here.
Sorry guys, 1 second. So lots happening. So I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's about meeting your customer where they are. And I think where a lot of brands fail is, you know, they sort of don't go through the re-innovation that they have to go through every 3 to 5 years to re-segment their customer base, to understand where they are in their life cycles. And really, a lot of brands are tone deaf. And I think at the end of the day, what it really boils down to in developing a keen customer retention strategy is really understanding the evolution of your customer to sort of increase that customer lifetime value, right? Because if you don't, and you are tone deaf, and you sort of miss these life stages. So, you know, if you started with millennials early on, and now millennials are becoming mom and dads, well, you know, have you taken a look at what that life stage means to them, where their income is, you know, where they're spending that money, you know, how have their values changed? And I think that, like, where a lot of brands fall short is that their brand position doesn't evolve with their customer. And so therefore their retention strategies fall short. And I also think that, you know, again, sort of coming out of it's sort of well into coronavirus, it's really sort of pulled back the red curtain of the fashion industry and what people are buying and how much they're willing to spend and that share of the wallet. And, you know, those days of, you know, spending maybe, you know, upwards of $150 to $200 on a pair of activewear leggings are going to be few and far between. Especially when companies are coming out and putting that same value and that same quality to the customer at a lower price point, right? And so, again, I think it's really just, at the end of the day, like, a strong customer retention strategy all boils down to making sure that you are truly sort of in tune with your customer, that you are being culturally relevant, and that you're taking that time every 3 to 5 years to really reassess who your customers are and sort of where they are and what life stage they're in, and evolving your product to that.
Wow, excellent thought. So learning about the consumer behavior and knowing the consumer is in their life cycle, there is a constant communication. Wow, excellent thought there. And yes, as you mentioned, a pause, reassessing after every whether evolving with the consumer mindset. Excellent point. Great. Cesar, you have built a great brand over a period of time. How do you think a growing brand can adapt to reach scale and size and acquire those find those early adapters and find those early ambassadors for your brand? What strategies did you adopt?
Well, I leveraged, not to go a lot into what I was doing before this, but definitely I was helping other social media brands communicate better leveraging Instagram, let's just say, right? This is back when Instagram engagement was pretty much open. You would post a good picture, good content, it could potentially get a lot of engagement and scale from there. So we're grateful to see that at the early days and got involved and grew our accounts very, very quickly. That said, the hard part, but yet is my biggest passion, is that ability to digitally communicate with somebody, to take a picture a certain way. Like I love studying analytics, but not from a number standpoint, but more so from like a human behavior standpoint, digital footprint, right? And why does this content do better? Why does this content do better, but it doesn't generate sales? And things like that. So I feel like understanding what it is that you're putting out, that energy that you're putting into your work, and understanding how it converts, it makes it more efficient to be able to say, okay, this is my proof of concept at the very beginning. How much does it cost to get there, right? Whether it be your time or whether it be time and capital, you know, and how can I scale this? Can I scale this on my own to get to that next level, to either raise cash or borrow cash to invest and grow it? Or, you know, what do I need? And I think taking the business to level by level, and also being very financially responsible too, because a lot of people in the social media world nowadays, you can make a lot of money very quickly. But if you don't know how to leverage it and reinvest it into the right places, because I think you have to have a budget for experimentation and make mistakes. But when it comes to 100% e-commerce, I think the most important thing is to really have the right partnerships, to have the right manufacturing partnerships, have full control over it. Because if you're buying something that somebody else sells, you have no control. You know, you're pretty much an Amazon reseller, which one day I see that completely changing. But if you're going to control your own brand and have your own design products, then you have to control the whole space, have the highest margin to be able to constantly experiment, and to be able to live right now with the high CPMs that we're all going to start entering. And if you don't have that high margin, you're just going to get kicked out. So understanding that, I think understanding all of those little things, it's even more important than the product itself. You could have the best product. If you don't know how to communicate it and you don't have the right margins, it'll never work. So.
Wow, excellent thought there, Cesar. I must say, yeah, I think it's all about those little things, paying attention to those little things in detail and then working out on them, especially after creating the product, translating and taking it to the end consumer. That's where the whole effort goes in, and that's where the whole creativity kind of kicks in. And yeah, as you said, rightly choosing the right channel and making sure that your consumers connect with your brand. That's the key to growth. Excellent. I would like to come to Samantha. As you have set up your brand and you are a growing company. As a growing company, what are some things that you adopt to acquire new customers and make sure that you are able to retain those customers and get additional customers? Basically, the early customers become your ambassadors. What strategy did you adopt?
It's kind of hard to say because I'm still in the process. Like I said, I'm still growing, but I'm still testing a lot of things and seeing what works and what does not work. I will say during COVID, for the first time, a year ago, I started a project and I started making clothes. I still have yet to release those things just because of the times that we're in. And I've never been one to expose and show, my audience, like from start to finish, where I'm designing on a CAD illustration and then I'm sourcing. And then, I never took them on that journey with me. And I think I had the best retention this last product. And I'm only doing product by product because, people are going through a lot of things, but I'm just trying to perfect each product as I go. And I have to say, I took them on that journey with me. And normally when I, post something and say, it's available online, and this is before I bought ads, this is before anything, it was like they were on this journey with me with making this product. And I got so many new customers, and my customers before, they loved it. And it was a challenge to myself to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to show mistakes, to just, move different, where I got a lot of new customers, and just like, I've never been in, I don't know anything about biodegradable fabric. Like, I like going to certain manufacturers for specific fabrics. And that is something that I challenged myself to do and just kind of lean into it. So I also made a product that was, 100% biodegradable. You can style it 7 different ways. I actually have it on right now. So it's this top, but just I'm designing for the times right now. And that's a story that connects to everybody right now. And so instead of having, my customers being from 18 to 35, I have 18 to 45, so I'm learning who my demographic is. Who I thought was before, it was not. And I've had other people reach out to me, and even brands, like, just because I do, before my early years of starting this business, I had to keep cash flow coming in. So I would still design for other brands. And so they came back to me, they're like, hey, like, we want you doing the same thing for us. And it's kind of like, and it's a whole different sector that I wasn't trying to tap in. So it's hard sticking, because I have my style and my aesthetics. And of course, we all have our visions of where we want our brands to be. But, I'm just like staying open to it. And I'm definitely reaching out to people that care more about sustainability. And that would be something whereas before I would kind of, I don't know enough about it, but I'm definitely leaning to everything. So I'm definitely staying open, and just like I said, I'm seeing what's working out and what doesn't.
Oh,
So
excellent thought. So you're going product by product, one step at a time, making sure that you have that sustainability, and you're open to learning. And excellent thought. Excellent. I would like to go to Andrew, and yeah, Blake, go ahead.
There's something interesting that Samantha said, and I think it's something that we've been seeing in our own business. When you speak about age range, right? You said that it was like, at first, Sam, it was like 18 to 35, and now you're like reaching 18 to 45. Yeah. And what you're seeing is there used to be this idea, especially when I started my career, that like, the 60-year-old was just so far away and so out of tune with the digital world. And now you see like, the difference between like, a mom who's now 30s and maybe going into her 40s even, versus a 25-year-old, are actually not that different. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that that's really interesting to see, is like segmenting people on lifestyle and sort of seeing how that connectedness and how this digital world has kind of created this integrated lifestyle. And now it's so upwardly mobile, up until, my mom is shopping online. She's buying from Instagram ads. And so we're no longer sort of like, especially like within our brand in and of itself, we can't ignore my mom. Right? Because she is a buyer, and she is shopping online, and she's shopping from Instagram, and she's buying cool leggings because my sister wears them. And my sister sort of is like influencing her style choices, which is really incredible. And I think it's definitely something that we see changing in the landscape, is how everyone's lifestyle is sort of all becoming not so different, right?
Absolutely. I think they are becoming the influencer for other family members, and it's kind of adding in that additional set of buyers. Typically a brand knows their buyer personas, and they have their marketing campaigns thought in that direction. Additional buyers that are getting added because of the evolution. And there is a thin line between the buyer personas, and as you said rightly, Blake, how members kind of influence the baby boomers, and so that's an excellent point. I would like to go to Andrew. Andrew, you have been a leader in you have turned around businesses. As a marketing leader, as a owner of a great brand, what is that advice, or how do you what advice will you give to someone, let's say a fashion business, which is, let's say, doing $1 million a month, go to $5 million a month, for example, in a span of 1 or 2 years? What can they do? What strategies they should adapt that can really turn around the scale at which they're operating? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I look at business like any relationship. And Cesar said it in the beginning, it's all about relationships. So the way that we look at our customers are the same way you look at friends.
True.
So I don't know if you've had an experience with your friends where you start, I'm Australian. So if I go home and start telling people a whole bunch of stuff about who I am and what I'm doing and how great I am, I'm very quickly like knocked down.
Yeah.
People want a conversation. They want to know what's underneath. They
True.
want a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. And this is really hard. So for me to actually say this, I'm learning to do it as well. Transparency in your supply chain is one thing, but transparency in your company is another thing.
Yeah.
And I think customers really connect with that.
Yeah.
So in March, when our company, we had an incredibly quick trajectory in our growth, but we were enticed by the traditional wholesale business, and our business went like this. So in March, we lost, I always say we lost 70% of our staff, 90% of our business, but 100% of our fear.
Mm-hmm.
And what turned it around was really a very vulnerable conversation with our customers. So
Yeah.
I jumped back into the company with my team, and I literally wrote a letter to them, to my team, and that letter turned into, and they encouraged me to release it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we were very honest to say, this has crushed us.
Mm-hmm.
Where the likelihood of us going out of business is real,
Mm-hmm.
and we surrendered to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we shared that. But the most important thing for me personally was my responsibility to my team.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen. And for them, they couldn't go out and get new jobs.
Yeah.
I didn't want to furlough them because we didn't know what would happen. And then sitting at home doing nothing, getting bored would be a terrible thing. So I committed to saying over the next 2 to 3 weeks, whatever sales we would get, 100% of that would go to our staff. And we would put aside our operational requirements for that. And we had this honest conversation. I wrote a letter to our customers, and it's the thing that turned our company around. It turned us from a traditional wholesale business into primarily a digital e-commerce business. Our customers resonated. We offered them the ability to say, hey, you decide how much you want to pay for this jacket. You could pay full price, or you could pay 25 off, or you could pay 50 off. But knowing that 100% of that will go to our staff. It was remarkable how many people paid full price.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to generate over 3 months worth of salaries for our staff, so we could kind of relax and figure out what our strategy is. So to answer your question, I think the future of growth is being honest with your customer, being honest with who you are, and being okay that you don't know, but be honest about it, because you probably will know by asking for help. And that generally comes from your customer.
Wow, excellent. And with the kind of clarity and the way that thing that you are able to communicate with your customers, that's amazing. I believe customers resonated with that thought, and that really turned around. Excellent. I'm amazed to hear that.
Thank you.
Blake, as a VP of marketing, you working with so many different teams, and it's a kind of a big, like, you have to play a big role there of translating the thoughts from one team to other, and then ultimately taking a decision to make sure that when it is like a campaign, when it is actually going to go on a Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, how do you think, how do you manage all that between different teams? How do you find that resonance? How do you make sure you are able to communicate what the brand stands for, but you are able to listen to everyone's thoughts? How do you do this? It's a very complicated thing, but as a must have figured out a way for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basics of communication 101.
Yeah.
Are people talking? Do people understand how their job affects other people's jobs?
Yeah.
Do people understand, in terms of like, and really just breaking down the process, and do people understand at what point do I communicate what, right? And, you know, I always say I love organizational behavior. If I didn't study marketing, I would have like been an HR director or something like that, because I love company cultures. I read the Zappos book 100 times over, and, you know, I really, really love that kind of stuff. But, you know, a lot of the companies that I come into, everyone really, the problem is that everyone works in a silo.
True.
Right. So they don't understand how, you know, how if I'm doing a big, huge marketing campaign and expect X, right? How's that going to impact operations? You know what I mean? Did we order enough into that? You know, is the plan sort of foolproof? And I can just sort of talk about experiences in this own business. When I came on, you know, design and product was not speaking to marketing. You know, they were not developing into reasons for being. You know, so it was like, here's the product. And then this was historically a wholesale business. So that level of communication and translating to the consumer was never needed, right? Because it was like, hey, here's REI. They want a bunch of leggings. Let's make it, right? And then putting that online. Well, that doesn't work, right? As we know, when you're sort of building a direct-to-consumer business. So what I've been spending a lot of time doing is turning this organization inside out and making sure that those silos of communication are broken down, creating the platforms, creating the reports, having everybody sort of speak the same language, and working towards sort of a true north. And I think when you can set up an organization where everybody is working towards the same goal and the true north, and when you sort of communicate those goals on the onset of what are the goals of the business by department, and what is the overall goal of the business, and how does your piece play, how does your job play a role in that goal? The sooner you can get people to communicate that, then the sooner you can get people in the organization communicating together to develop a truly integrated interdepartmental sort of organization, right? That is multi-touch, that is, almost over communicating, and that is making sure that they sort of have that process and plan in place.
Wow, excellent thought. Yeah. So yeah, the communication can literally merge the boundaries. I mean, typically in a company culture, that's an important and great role in making sure that goals are achieved. So that's an excellent. Cesar, running your brand, and you have been successful on a short. How did you grow your brand success? You mentioned earlier that relationship is the key, and that you are able to communicate and connect with your end consumers. But when you started on with your business at a scale, what was your vision that, okay, within the next year to become reach this goal, the next year this goal? How did you manage? What kind of strategies did you adopt each year to reach that scale?
So the vision was definitely there, but usually it changes. You know, anyone that says, "Oh, it's going to be this," they're wrong. It's usually something completely different. You know, in a short period of time, it starts to change. But at first, we franchised the business. So I said, I definitely don't want to be a brick and mortar player. Right? And I said it back in 2013. I'm like, brick and mortar is going to fail. It's just a dying model, and so on. It's just too much exposure. And look now, you know, it doesn't allow you to navigate through any environment, right? So I said, you know what can I do? I could create like a digital real estate. So what I did was sell a franchise model that had kind of like a buy-in, sell inventory with it that comes with a buy-in, and then everybody gets a mirror website. So every state, every country would have a different buy-in, and we would just sell a whole bunch of inventory. And my model on the back end was, that's how I raise cash to be able to really reinvest it into the direct-to-consumer business. So that blew up very quickly. Why? Because everybody back then, and even more now, but back then everybody wanted to be an influencer. Everybody wanted to be a part of, you know, fashion. Everybody always wants to be a part of fashion. Fashion is cool, you know? And then the way we marketed the brand, it was engaging, and people just wanted to be a part of it. The problem that I saw is that a lot of people that were buying into this were either business owners or they had good jobs that made good income, so they had the money to buy in, but they didn't necessarily know how to grow it, right? So that took 2 years to realize. I'm like, this is something I need to exit out of, right? So some of them, their contracts died. Others I had to buy And then in mid 2016, late 2017 is really when we opened the Shopify store. In 2017, is when we discovered, wow, you could invest a couple of bucks into Facebook ads and see a pretty good return, and then I manage that because I usually manage everything at one point to understand it. Otherwise, I hire somebody, they say it's going to cost X and I have no idea what they're doing. So I try to get my feet wet in everything, right, before I delegate.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And after, I delegated my Facebook ad spend when I was at about 150 bucks a day. Obviously now we spend thousands, and I've gone through 3 agencies already. And now I'm with, I was with the most expensive agencies. But to do that, you have to understand how the whole flow works.
Right.
And so now the model that we built, which I'm very proud of, I think is very ahead of its time, is instead of having a whole bunch of employees that have to manage their emotions, and things of that nature, and obviously everything that's happening now, I hire agencies. So we have very little employees. We have agencies all over the world that are on 24/7. I marry them. And so, I oversee everything, and it allows me, most importantly, which I think is where the big disconnect with brands right now is that they lose that in-person, one-to-one communication. I think it's very powerful that if you have a brand that's generating great profits, right, that's doing really well on the back end, but seems like a one-man show, right? So it seems like the digital, the online, the owner, the founders are always talking to the people. Maybe even the founders are on the ads. I've noticed, because the numbers always tell you, I've noticed that their retention is so much higher because people think that they're doing business with you always.
True.
And so to be able to do that, you have to almost be able to have these agencies and these apps and leverage, because all these apps already have all the things that these big businesses are trying to build. They already have that. They're experts in specific industries. So you pay them, you marry them, and then you can scale. You don't have the inventory problem. You don't have ad spend scales. It doesn't matter. You can handle all the inventory. Manufacturers are on point. You can handle that too. So that's, understanding it, letting the numbers do the talking, listening to the customer, the collections, go into collections. Every time we design something, we design something really with our customer, So that's why we never have a collection that fails. We never have a fabric that fails. Wow. We also have a just-in-time model. I'm allergic to inventory. I'm allergic to real estate, and so we just keep it just in time, keep a rapid turnaround time. You're never going to have 100% customer satisfaction. You're always going to have a couple of people complaining, but you do your best with those that are really, really happy. You learn from your mistakes, and try to delegate as much as possible while still keeping that personal touch.
Wow,
it's a lot of info.
You brought a great point there. So you have taken a very unique approach to scaling up the business, and I think it's really working out. And it's just a matter of making sure that you are able to the right stakeholders, and goals are kind of aligned. Everyone is aligned towards that goal. So that's excellent thought you brought there. Wow. Samantha, I have this next question for you, which is around as a brand, you want to scale up to the next level, and yes, you are taking one step at a time. But according to you, which channel would be the most to reach to your target audience? Will you go for a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad? Yes, this is like the typical 3 channels that to kind of target end consumers. So which one would be best for you? What do you think?
It's hard to say. I mean, I do very well with Instagram. I do well with Facebook. I just started, I have a daughter who's 15, and so she's showing me how to use TikTok and stuff like that. So I just started, just seeing what it's like on there, and I've had sales from there. And the thing, what I love, I mean, Instagram is great, but I do think it's saturated, and it's really hard for you to navigate because there's so much in your face. Just as, me not being a business owner on Instagram, it's overwhelming and it's hard for it. There's so much product thrown in your face in a day. It's like, what's special? So right now I'm learning about TikTok and I'm starting to get sales. And I think what I like, you know, this topic has been brought up a few times, is transparency on TikTok. You know, there's a lot of brands starting to cross over, and, you know, it's not a younger generation. It's older people too, you know, just, it's a different kind of marketing, but it's very honest. And it's fast. Like the conversions on there are fast.
That's
you know,
true.
just because, you know, I want to say it's a minute-long video, and people are showing you what their office looks like, and nobody wants to show that. I personally don't, but I see everything crossing over. So I do think that, you know, like, and everything in fashion right now is being revealed. So people are more aware of that. So I think because it's in their face, you know, that is something right now I'm focusing on, just because you know, it worked faster for me than Instagram. So, you know, of course, Facebook ads are great, but I think that right now, since, you know, in the state that we're in, I think that everyone should be open to it, you know?
Absolutely. It's a great channel. TikTok has evolved for storytelling, and consumers love it. About connecting with the consumers.
Yeah, and it's also lively. Like everything right now is just like everyone's emotions are flat. And I think with, you know, TikTok, you could add your own aesthetic, your own vibe, and you kind of like show your customers really what your personality is, what your brand DNA is, just everything. So right now I'm focusing on that, but I do well on Instagram, but I'm definitely.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a great thought that you got there. Yeah, TikTok is an ever evolving medium, and I'm going to see. I think with what they're doing, they're going to bring a lot of innovation in the way evolving. So it's doing now. And business leader, you have wore so many. You have worked with so many different teams across different geographies, and the most important thing are like the internal stakeholders and when I say external stakeholders and your partners. How do you what are your thoughts on that? Like your buyers, from where you get your products from, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you broke up a little bit, but I think I heard the notion of the question. So in terms of stakeholders, we actually started this company as a partnership company. So for me, I never wanted employees, I wanted stakeholders. So everyone that comes into the company has the ability to become an owner. And when being in the business so long, I really saw that the thing that absolutely crushed companies was their supply chain.
True.
Fashion is a very complex thing, and supply chain is disastrous. So before I launched the company, I spent 18 months traveling the world to find the best manufacturers. And we found a group in India, actually in Chennai, been around 30 years, the nicest group of people that you would meet, and they became our business partners. So we're really lucky in that sense that, and we tested, so we've developed over 300 styles. We haven't released them, but we spent the first couple of years understanding what's possible, and then understanding the quality and the consistency and the timing and the pricing. So, you know, once we got going, very quickly, within 2 years, our business was able to scale, and we're able to understand what our core business was. So I would urge anyone that gets into this business, because most people that get in, they're very creative, they have a great vision for their company, they have a great voice, but unfortunately, the manufacturing side is a disaster. So for us, particularly now, and where so much of the manufacturing is in China and there's a lot of issues there, we have a competitive advantage. You know, the cost of goods is a lot lower. If there's an issue, I call up the owners. They are my business partners. I speak to them, you know, every other week. So that to me is important. And then in terms of other stakeholders, you know, my lawyer is a part of it. My accountant is a part of it. So we have a very small group of people, but very committed, and because they all have skin in the game.
Wonderful. So choosing Yeah, it's like finding the right partners definitely is the most difficult thing. But once you have that sorted out, yeah, you can go places. That's an excellent thought.
For sure.
Manufacturers from where that's where things start, and ultimately that's where that's the most important thing, single most important thing, because any disruption in supply chain can kill the business. So as you said rightly, finding the and getting them is a
Yeah.
tough thing. But I think you have tried, which might have given you ideas like cultures matter, people matter, and relationships matter.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think in the future of fashion is you'll see manufacturers, and you're seeing it now, obviously,
Yeah,
but small manufacturers, they become brands,
true.
and they can hire in the creative, but
Hmm.
it's difficult to hire in the manufacturing. So
Yeah.
that's that. I think that's the wave that's going to go across fashion next after digital, which has come on now, but is manufactured brands.
Hmm. That's good. Yeah, yeah. We are going to see a paradigm shift maybe in the next 5 or 10 years in terms of how things are moving. Supply chains are moving from I think they're happening geopolitically, or we can say with the challenging times. Everything rapid change, and maybe we'll see a great shift in the near future. Great. Blake, at Task Performance, you were the campaign that kind of the most challenging one. Something that kind of you felt that, oh, that was the most challenging campaign that I was able to kind of make it through the market. I mean, any particular experience that you want to share really worked well?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So Task is I've only been around for 8 months, so
Hmm. Okay.
let's just throw that out there. But it's interesting because I didn't get that. It was a bit of a rough start, right? It was a pandemic and
Yeah.
coronavirus, followed by basically nationwide civil unrest after the George Floyd protest and so on and so forth. And this is a brand that's rooted in New Orleans, and the people in New Orleans care about New Orleans. Would I say that they're the most global people in the world?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And so I think what that really forced our brand to do, and what really that forced our company to do, and really forced my CEO to do, is say, we now more than any time in the world, brands are being forced to take a stand. Brands are being forced to have a voice in socio-political, economic issues, because people are so distrustful of the government, right? That they want brands that align with who they are.
Yeah.
And, so the days of safe brand jargon and the days of, well, this is our consumer and this is who we have to stick with, are sort of gone. And so, we definitely, as a brand during Black Lives Matter and specifically Pride Month, we wanted to come out with a message that one, felt authentic to our brand and that we could stand behind, and that it wasn't sort of this, well, all the other brands are doing it, so we need to do it. And so we launched a word campaign, and that word was humankind. And part of my strategy was to develop a corporate social responsibility brand pillar, because we can't be about sustainability and then not about people, right?
True.
So we had to be about people.
Yes.
And what that really forced was us to develop this diversity and inclusion initiative around all people, not just Black people, not just gay people, not just Hispanic people, but all people, and what all people need to sort of be okay in the world and to be happy in the world. So humankind is our CSR sort of, is our CSR strategy. And what that's about is people protecting our planet and people protecting people. And it's that easy. And so we launched a tea campaign around that word, and it really took off. And for our brand, it was a departure from anything that we had ever done before, because Task had always sort of played it safe. And so, as we grow, and I always tell my upper executive leadership, we have to be culturally relevant. because the Nikes and the Lulus of the world are doing it and they're going there. Patagonia just released a huge campaign, I think, pardon my language, but on their tag it said "Vote the assholes out." And you know, I think, you know, and that's getting they're getting a lot of clicks, and you know, that's growing that direct traffic and that organic search traffic for sure. And so, you know, I think for me it was a challenge first coming into a business that had never really had a CSR strategy, or had been forced to think about that, one. To get them to pivot very quickly, but two, to sort of come out with a message that felt brand appropriate to us and felt authentic, and that we didn't want to just stop with posting a black square.
That's true.
Because the bus couldn't stop there. And I think, you know, as brands evolve and as they grow, you know, taking on we already have our own matters of our business, right? Our organizational structures, our marketing structure, you know, but now we're being called on to sort of solve the world's problems, which adds complexity to our duty, right? That's and I think that is something that, you know, the Toms of the world sort of started, and now it's sort of like, well, Tom's is like, well, we've been doing this for a long time. So how are all these other brands going to sort of join forces in an authentic and connected way to the world?
That's true. Absolutely. And as you said rightly, because brands have when kind of relating that because I think brands reflect emotion of the people, just like what Nike does or what Patagonia does or what Everlane does. I think these are great brands and people resonate and they take a stand. I think that's what matters to them, what they are already doing, which is into sustainability, into their products, and along with that and beyond in kind of challenges of the humanity and kind of making it their own and then trying to do their bit in the best possible manner. So as you said rightly, I think that's amazing that you could start that campaign and touch the lives. Amazing. While we are coming to an end of this panel discussion, I have this last question for all of you, and you are operating at you are into different verticals. So what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give to individuals who are already running fashion business or apparel business or stage of their business? Some might be at an early stage, some might be at a growth stage, some might be stage. So what is that one piece of advice that you would your own learnings and experiences? I may start with Cesar.
So I would say definitely be true to yourself. Do it for the passion. I'm a firm believer that entrepreneurship is your ability to monetize your passion. I think that if you get into something, do it for a much deeper meaning, one that is connected with your fundamentals. It's never really about the product. It's never about necessarily the business is something outside of the product, always. I think that's what will keep you sustainable. I think that if you're operating today and you're stuck, I think you need to go back and look at that back. Why is it that you're doing it to begin with? And it's almost like the law of attraction. Once you really focus on your mindset and you focus on where you see yourself, where do you really want to be, everything else falls as long as you put in the work, as long as you put in the time, as long as you don't quit. Because a lot of people don't want to put in the time and the effort to solve those problems. You know, a lot of people don't want to. You know, opportunities are really problems in Halloween and in a costume or whatever, you know. If you can't see that, if you can't identify it, then of course you're stuck. And so you're probably stuck because you need to learn something. And so my advice would be that, to really go back to the roots. Why did you get into this to begin with? And you'll figure it out as long as you stay loyal to why you're in it.
Wonderful. Excellent thought there. Thank you. Samantha, one piece of advice from your experiences so far.
I definitely agree with what he just said, because like he said, you know, just you're going to have a lot of battles and there's always going to be a lot of change and necessary change, but be open and tell yourself you can do hard things. You can move forward. Not doing anything is the worst. You can't sit on something too long because you know, you're stopping your progress in learning something new, and it ultimately makes you smarter and stronger in the end. But yeah, just stay open and every day work on your business, and, you know, just make a list and really stick to that list, because it will manifest.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Blake, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always data to inform strategy, right? But there's a piece in being a good leader that always says, go with your gut.
Yeah.
You know, follow your gut. The data is going to say some things, but do what you feel feels good inside, because at the end of the day, you know, we are the consumer. We are the consumer. You're the consumer in your own business. Yes. So you're not that, and hopefully you're not that out of touch with, or you're so fulfilled by what you're doing in the product that you're putting out there that you're not that disconnected from the consumer. And if you are, then you need to take a step back and maybe reassess, right? Because maybe you're really not following your heart. So I think listen to those gut reactions, because they'll never sort of steer you in the wrong direction. They might actually give you the kick in the ass that you need to go a little bit further or try a little bit harder. So
wonderful. Excellent thought. Excellent thought. Andrew, your advice for you have operated at every scale, and from your experiences, what is that one turnaround thing that a business can do? And you have said so many points earlier, working with internal stakeholders, partners, but what is that one thing other than that people can incorporate?
Yeah, I think the motto that I live by in starting any business and taking on any project is learn to reproduce yourself. Meaning, there is this amazing thing that happens when you take on a mentor, you take on an intern, and when you learn to teach something that you have no idea about. So if you want to start a company, find someone to mentor about how to start a company. It's the same kind of analogy as any parent will tell you. As soon as they had a child, the growth that they experienced was unbelievable. So when you really take on someone and you take responsibility for someone, you build a level of knowledge, and you find humility, and also you break the ceiling of risk. So you can't do, like, it's very difficult to do it on your own. And what a business does, and I'm an advocate for entrepreneurs. I think there should be more. Go out, go start businesses. But fundamentally, the business, if you can connect to that, yes, you want to make money and you want to be successful, but if you can connect to your own personal growth, that you will learn an abundance of information, and you will probably become a nicer person, a better person, and a more and a smarter person, and someone who can really solve complex problems, but take people on.
Wonderful. Wow. Excellent. I must say, this last 60 minutes have been an excellent discussion, and the kind of thoughts you guys have shared is amazing. And I must say, this is a treasure that you guys have kind of opened up, and you have been honest and open about everything that you have done. You talked about your learnings, and there are 4 things that I picked up from all of you. Is sustainability, bringing your business and how it can go a long way. Your end consumers, listening to them and kind of being open and transparent to their thoughts, and then incorporating their feedback into business and how it can help the business reach a new scale. What Blake has mentioned about, apart from having the internal issues of working with internal stakeholders and the challenges of running a business, that is just one of the aspects, but the challenges of humanity, I mean, the challenges which the community is facing, and then standing up for it, and how it can have a great impact, and how a brand can really become like pioneers in solving those challenges, resonate with the consumers. So this is really a nice takeaway from today's panel discussion, I must say. And there are several things that I wanted to touch upon, but due to the paucity of time, I try to kind of come up and kind of cover as many points as I can. But you guys have been excellent, and I really want to say thank you from our organization and Alito for taking out time today and sharing these incredible thoughts. And we would love to learn more from you. There are several topics that we have kind of thinking about, such as itself is a major topic that we are thinking of covering in our subsequent panel discussions. And we would love to learn more about those on those as well. With this, we come to an end of this panel discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Blake. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you so much, Cesar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.